Black-owned business profiles. This week on the Bob Profiles, David Walker talks about alkaline water, his product, the brand, and keeping plastic bottles out of the landfill.
Sure. So my vision really grew out of my passion for entrepreneurship as a business attorney. So I've been practicing corporate law for 24 years. I help people start their business, buy and sell business, raise capital, and generally act as the corporate counsel on all business-related matters. The most important thing is what I don't do. I don't do any litigation. No bad news law like divorce, criminal, DUI, bankruptcy. So I have a lot of entrepreneurial clients and friends. Well, one day I had an assessment of my life. I went to church and the pastor took out a whiteboard and he rolled the whiteboard all the way out to the parking lot, and he had colorful sticky notes, and he says, today we're going to write down our most outrageous goal in life and post it on this whiteboard, and we're going to send it out to God in the universe. It's kind of an exercise of trying to have something bigger than just yourself. So everyone's writing down their most outrageous goals, and I had to take an assessment of really what was my most outrageous goal in life. And I've been through poverty in Detroit, and I've seen wealth through the corporate law, and it really wasn't necessarily money directly. I wanted my own Super Bowl trophy. I just said, I want my own Super Bowl trophy. I can't get it as a player. I can't get it as a coach. I don't play or coach, but I can still own an NFL team and win a Super Bowl trophy, because having a team without the trophy is a waste of everyone's time. So I wrote on my sticky note, I want to own an NFL team and win a Super Bowl trophy. Put it on there. And anytime you manifest an outrageous goal, it makes you think. It makes you think about, okay, if that's outrageous, what are even the dots to get there? And if it's 2 million miles in one direction, how do I get there? So when I've been examining business over time, and this is around the year I've been practicing for about 15 years, I've been through the dot-coms, I've been through the, nanotechnology, the websites, the, crypto, I've been through all of it. And I have to have a skill set that matches what I do, but it had to be multipliable and scalable in order to get to the value of an NFL team. And so I started to look at all the businesses around and figure out what matched for me. And I have a client that that provides engineering services to beverage companies. They sell manufacturing equipment to beverage companies, chillers, compressors, blow molders, to bottling companies. And I went with them on a negotiated trip for a bottled water plant. And I went into the bottled water plant and I fell in love. I have a mechanical engineering degree from Michigan before I became an attorney. And as a result of that, I walked into this plant and I wasn't intimidated, I was curious. And I started asking the engineer and the plant people questions about the plant and how it worked. It was just fascinating how this plant was producing, almost a truckload of water per hour, and how efficient it was. But one of the things that they showed me is they showed me their trash dumpster. And in that dumpster, it was like half full. And they said, we only get our trash emptied about once every 2 weeks. I said, really? With this 150,000 square foot plant and all this stuff going on? He said, yeah, because we send the plastic back to our supplier that we don't use in the bottles that don't get filled, or the treads aren't right, or the caps, etc. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, this is the most valuable plastic there is out there, is the bottled water plastic. I'm like, what do you mean the most valuable plastic? And I learned that there was levels of recycling and plastic levels in value. And bottled water has the highest value, but only if it stays together. If the plastic gets into other sources, then it can never be, a bottled water again. It can just be diluted and it becomes a park bench or something long term. So I said, that's very interesting. And so from that moment forward, I said, I want to get into bottled water, but I want to try to fix some of the problems in bottled water. So let's talk about water as a product, because there's a lot of education. I mean, bottled water passed carbonated drinks in consumption per capita in 2016. I watched that happen because I got into bottled water in 2014. And at the International Bottled Water Association, they have an annual event, and they talk about trends in bottled water sales. And I literally attended these events and watched as water passed carbonated drinks, which means that people are becoming more healthier. They're becoming more understanding about how water fits into their diet and more conscious of it, and they're starting to buy water products. The next phase of this, like anything else, is people become educated. They start to realize, if I'm buying something in the bottle and they all have different labels, what do they mean? So I'm going to give you the kindergarten basics of water. If you would like the most fresh water, you can always go up to the Smoky Mountains and put your lips in the stream and suck it out the ground. That's what you call, people who say, hey, the water's not natural, that's the most natural water you can get. Now, who knows what parasites, germs is in it, whatever, you can put your lips on it and suck it. Anytime that water is put into a bottle, it has to be processed. Nobody takes the bottle and just shoves it in the stream and puts a cap on it. No one does that. The FDA doesn't allow it. In fact, the FDA regulates when water gets pulled out the stream, what happens to it. If water's processed one time by a private entity, that's called spring water. That means the private entity has taken that water from the spring, processed it once, and put it into a bottle. If, however, the water's been processed twice, meaning that once by a municipality, City of Atlanta, then secondly by a bottler, that's called purified water. So Atlanta takes it out the stream, they process it, a private company takes it from Atlanta, processes it again, and then puts it in the bottle. That's called purified water. Spring water is what we knew in the 80s and 90s, and it was probably 80-90% of consumer demand. It's flipped. Purified water is part of pure customer demand. Why? Because it's easier to get to a municipal outlet than it is to get to a stream. So a lot of bottled water companies contract with municipalities who've already processed the water and said, hey, we're going to take the water, we're going to go through a process called reverse osmosis, strip it down, add minerals, and that's purified water. So purified water can be made anywhere there's a municipality offering water. So positivity actually comes from a municipality that's in the Smoky Mountains. Bro, when we first did our first truckload, we took a pallet down to the Peachtree Road Race and we sampled it with Peachtree Road Race runners and said, we took 1,000 bottles, which is equivalent to about a pallet, and we poured samples and we said, if you like this sample, give us your email and we'll give you a bottle. We took 1,000 bottles and got 700 emails. So for me as a business owner, that was my first test of like, okay, this product actually works with the public. Because you can believe something all you want, but until you get a product into the public, you're not very sure. So when you get into bottled water, it's important to understand, one, if you're going to do spring, if you're going to do purified, and then if you're going to do what's called an enhanced water, like alkaline water, where you're adding minerals, electrolytes, sometimes sugar, color, flavoring. That's all enhanced water, but that's all usually done from purified water. The industry doesn't really like the term purified water, so they've been using another term lately called drinking. So if you see in the store, you're like, it doesn't say purified or spring, it says drinking, it's purified water. The more people figure out and turn their cases over and look at where that case was produced and where you are physically standing, trust me on this, that water had to get to where you're standing because of freight and shipping and all those other things. But at the end of the day, the same water that you're drinking water, could have been made here in Atlanta that you got shipped from California, Wisconsin, Florida. And when consumers start to understand this, the simple truth become obvious to them, like it was to me, that everyone should drink their water locally, buy it locally, and then, because of what the engineers mentioned, return the plastic locally. And that launched StarWalker Industries, where I'm in the process of building a micro bottled water plant where people can come buy the water locally, drink it locally, and bring the plastic back locally, creating a closed loop system. And that's what the idea behind closed loop is you like to have 100% bottle return, right? If I had my druthers, everybody who ever bought a bottle would bring the bottle back. That's not going to happen. So in our business model, we've incentivized people to bring the return back by offering a 20-cent incentive. So you would collect your bottles, you go onto our website, and you scan a QR code or whatever is the access point. You put in a number of bottles. You'll have a date. We do it once a month where people come in, bring the bottles in, and then we cash app them the money. And we have a collection here in which we source it out to a supplier up in Rome, Georgia, who picks up our plastic and grinds it and puts it back into the PET1 stream here in Georgia. Yes, our sustainability is unique because we built a collection into the business model. Meaning that when I started this company, I already said, once we sell this case, we need to have money reserved for collecting the bottle back. See, big businesses, they've already worked backwards. They're used to just shipping it out and getting it out, and when you get it, good luck. But they're missing an opportunity. They're missing an environmental opportunity, and they're missing a connection opportunity with your customer. Because not only do people want to bring the bottle back and participate, you still have a way to connect with them. So now when they come back to return the bottles, what do you think they want next? more water. So I believe that sustainability and this circularity and these closed loop systems is the future of businesses. And I built the business, and I think people should build their business with sustainability in mind from the beginning. So I went out to shareholders last summer through an equity crowdfunding raise, presented the platform, and we raised $200,000 over 500 members, 500 investors. And they all bought into the idea that, hey, we understand we're not going to make the most money possible in this company because we have a bottle return, but we feel like it's enough money for me to invest in and for the company to be successful. And that's really what I'm out to prove as a business attorney, that you can have sustainability and profitability. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. Some of these big companies have too much use of their profits now that they can't just peel out, a $2 billion project to collect bottles. They're like, well, that's not gonna help. But I'm showing them that you have to start somewhere, and I think that the answer is not big and giant, it's local. So our design is to build a micro bottled water plant that's going to deliver in the city of Atlanta. So our water would be for, East Point and College Park and West Side, as opposed to for Savannah and, Charlotte and all these other areas. So these plants are typically 150,000 square feet, these large bottled water plants. Ours is going to be small, 30 to 50,000 square feet. So this is just a small facility designed to probably supply water to about 60 to 200,000 households. So Atlanta could probably, hold 6 or 7 plants in the local region, but the idea is Atlanta should have its own water, New Orleans should have its own water, Miami, everyone should have their own water and keep it local and keep the plastic local. And we're going to incentivize them with the 20 cents. So we have a lot of customers who will collect their bottles and then submit their form, and then on the day of, they come by, drop off the bottles, we cash app them, and they're happy. And a lot of people are really excited about a company having a plan. Now, is it going to fix things overnight? No. I mean, our collection process is still an ongoing process. You have to spend as much energy on collection as you do in selling it. So when we often sell, we try to tell people, hey, remember the bottle's worth 20 cents. Remember the bottles. And they're so happy and drinking, it's so good. And it's like, hey, remember the bottle's 20 cents. So you have to continue to do that. And it's difficult in a state like Georgia, a city like Atlanta, where people who may be from other places might be familiar with deposits. So deposit laws in Michigan, California, New York, they save carbonated drinks, but there's not any a lot of deposits for water. Water deposits are even less than carbonated deposits. And then when you talk about bottled water, you're only talking about a few states that have a deposit. This is not a requirement by the state of Georgia, the city of Atlanta. This is a corporate policy we've implemented for the good of the local public. So we are doing this, and that 20 cents, I guess, is taxable to you because it's income. But at the end of the day, I think the idea is that, we want to show that if there's a corporate responsibility, that if you put raw material out there, and you should have some responsibility to collect some of it back. And that's what we're doing with our closed loop system. So StarWalker Industries is the parent company that is building the micro bottled water plant. Positivity is a subsidiary of StarWalker. So when I launched StarWalker and I talked to these manufacturers and I said, how do I get into bottled water? And they said, well, you have to start with co-packing. I was like, what's that? It's like you have to understand distribution before you can understand production. A lot of times people will be overwhelmed by a certain industry because of how hard it is to enter. So when people think of bottled water, they think, man, that must be a lot of time, money, etc. It is, but I know from being an attorney, everything starts with the first step. So first thing is maybe go to a International Bottled Water Association meeting and just hear what bottled water people are saying. Meet people, talk to them, tell them your ideas, share them with them. And most people were more than generous. And then because I'm an attorney, I had access to more resources. So I knew people who were in the beverage field who had connections, and I knew people who were in production, and I knew engineers. So for me, I was able to tap into those people and tell my story, and then I was able to collect a team to do that. So our first product is called Integrity. We still have it here. It's our spring and purified brand, right? And so Integrity, we sell nationwide, but we sell it within a radius of our production sites. StarWalker was born by being strictly a distribution company. And then Positivity is the second brand that came along. I got into this because I want to build micro plants. And so distribution was just an idea of kind of understanding brands and understanding how customers work and how they order, while I also built with the engineers a micro plant to do our own production. in that process, you engage the community. And obviously the community is very interested in a black person who owns a bottled water company, right? You're an attorney. How do you get in bottled water? They want to hear the whole story. And as they hear the whole story, you start to hear more things that you are not aware of. So people who were in the bottled water would ask me questions about different things. And one question I used to get repeatedly, this was back in 2015 or 16, is do you have any alkaline water? Okay. Now, I was not familiar with alkaline water at all, but I would get this question probably once every other week. And I started to say, like, I'm not sure, tell me more about it. And people would explain to them how it's good for their skin and how they enjoy it with their foods and how they're on an alkaline diet. And they take a 5-gallon jug to a nutritional shop and they fill it up at the nutritional shop and pay for the water to bring it back. And I heard these stories over and over again. I was fascinated, but not, curious. When I went to the International Bottled Water Association meeting one year, they have, the trends. They mentioned a small, tiny category of alkaline water drinkers under enhanced water. And I said, wait, this is the same thing that they were talking to me about. With alkaline water, it's considered a premium product, meaning that, you don't find it everywhere, and then especially one that's done really well. So with alkaline water, the process does cost a little bit more, but you can also, it's treated more like your normal goods and services that have margin for you to be able to ship further, et cetera. So with our alkaline water brand, we've been able to, have higher sales, higher cost per sales because of the quality of the water and also the branding. It's more of a luxury product. Our integrity is more of what you might get at a picnic or you're having a party, you get the 24 pack for friends and family. So the name Positivity, though, came because of when I looked at those people who would ask me about it, they were black women here in Atlanta and they were all very positive. And that's where I came up with the name Positivity. It's a characteristic of my family, of our staff, and also of the women who encouraged me to get into alkaline water. Any business owner is going to have challenges, and it's just really about surviving the moment. Right, you sometimes can get overwhelmed with the long story. I don't have a Super Bowl trophy today, so I could be sad, but I'm not. I just realized I got to get through today. In this bottled water industry, it's really about logistics and planning and making sure things arrive on time. We call ourselves the Chick-fil-A of bottled water. So what I wanted to do to differentiate ourselves in an industry that's commoditized like that is to say, when StarWalker Industries says you're going to get a truckload, you're going to get a truckload. And if it says it's going to be 21 pallets, it's going to be 21 pallets. And if it's going to be 1,596 cases, it's going to be 1,596 cases. And so the challenge is to pick one thing you're good at and stick with it, even though you start to say, well, I might want to change this label, or I might want to, change my packaging. And you start to get distracted by, I got to get this website and I got to do this thing. And you have to have some core tenets in your business. Otherwise, you kind of fall off. Now, with that being said, the challenges in our business is the changing in the freight and the changing in the plastic. So if I tell you as a customer, I'm going to sell you this case for X amount of dollars, you're not interested in a new case every other month. Well, I can tell you that between 2014, when I first started, and 2020, we had one price increase from our bottler from that time. Since 2020, we've had 6. Now, these are people bidding on contracts, government contracts, asking, hey, can I have this truckload at this price and this price? And you thinking that, oh yeah, this is like before, I'll commit to that price. And your supplier gives you 2 or 3 price changes in between, and you can't pass that along to your customer, right? So you have to start to say, okay, new sets of customers with new prices, right? and not beat your current customers up and go, hey, I got to squeeze more money here. In the business, it's always make more money more than it is squeeze it from from that customer. So for us, when the prices increase, we don't put the pressure on our customers. We just implement it into kind of the new customers coming in. Hey, this is the price now. So that's been a little bit of challenge, is keeping ahead of the flow. The supply chain, not so much, has been bad because it's all domestic and it's local, and there's lakes and streams and bottle production companies all over the country. But the cost of freight fluctuates as well. So when you're dealing with customers, you have to ask them, are they going to pick it up or are you going to deliver it? If I'm going to deliver it, that's a different price than you picking it up. So those are some of the challenges we see in bottled water. It's always been hard to have a good staff. I tell business owners now when they start a business, it used to be, you want to form a business, get an LLC and an EIN and a bank account, right? 1, 2, 3, and open it. But now you need something else. You need culture. I tell business owners to write down who they are and why they started a business when they're starting it, because that's going to be your culture document. Because in the early days, the company could have a culture of employees and they can have a culture of customers. And employees kind of knew, like, don't tell the customer, but this is what we do internally. And they had confidentiality. Since social media and people are being able to show your employment policies online, you can't have that double life. I treat my employees like this, but I treat my customers like this. I tell my employees, don't do this, use the scraps or whatever. I tell my customers all fresh. You can't do that anymore because the employees say, oh yeah, right, we're all fresh, look at this. So what you have to do is you have to sell your business to your employees as equally as you sell it to your customer. So you got to find employees the same way you find customers. You got to meet them where they are. You got to try to say, hey, what inspires you? What is it that you want to do in life? And how can this job connect with you in doing that? And so here at Positivity, our culture is obviously one of integrity. So that's our brand. We believe do the right thing when no one's looking. And positivity, you know what? The intersection of optimism and enthusiasm, right? So that's really where we try to focus in on our characteristics, and it's there in our brands and it's there in everything else. But also the entrepreneurial spirit in me. All of our staff has an LLC separately, right? I mean, we encourage that because one, I tell them I don't pay you enough, so you need to go make more money, right? But the second thing is that when people feel connected to something that's one, the mission is clear. The mission is to get the Super Bowl trophy. But also, two, I care about how they view things in life. I care about them other than their position, and I want them to be successful in life. And I don't have the plan that they're going to stick with the company for 30 years, you know, like it used to be in the olden days. I think, you know, right now you say, hey, give me a 1-2 year commitment and just make this position better when you left than it was when you started. So I'm going to help you try to meet some of your life goals. You help this company make this position better than it was before you started, and we're going to have a great relationship because you are going to be a referral for them later in their resume, right? You are going to rely on some of the work product that they've done for your future employees. So you have to create a culture where the synergy is symbiotic and the people can feel it more than just being written on paper. You can feel our culture document in our meetings and how our staff engages with one another. And that's something. You have to be humble, okay, and not treat time as an element of success. So humble means that even though I'm an attorney, I started from the beginning of the line. And I mean the absolute beginning. Going to the first IBWA meeting, talking to people, going to the SBA or going to some of these things that you sit in and you think, wow, you're an attorney, why are you sitting through this? Yes, I could probably skip steps 2 through 4 or steps 6 through 7 when it talks about corporate, but sitting in line and realizing that, man, there's a lot of things I don't know, and just allowing yourself to educate. So there's a stat that like 2 to 8% of Americans, only 2 to 8% actually make their money off their business, meaning that they make enough money to pay themselves not to have to work for somebody else. Only 2 to 8%, right? Now, so which means most people out here have a W-2. 92 to 98% of America has a W-2 that's not from a company that they own. But 54% want to, right? So what takes that 54% to that 2 to 8%? It's all knowledge and education. And me as a business attorney understands that more than ever. So when I started my practice, I really started humbly by working with new startup business owners on Saturdays. I had a program called the Business Owner Movement. And every Saturday from 10 to 12, I would be in the office and people could come in who had not started a business and talk about starting a business. And I would have people come in and talk about websites and social media. And I did this for like 2 years. And I did it every Saturday. And they would always see me at a networking event and go, when is that business owner movement? I'd say Saturday. I'm like, when? I'm like, this Saturday. Every Saturday I committed to the community to be available for them. And a lot of times for them, they want to leave their job, but they're scared. They're not scared of the product or service that they have. They're scared of the things that they don't know. Like, I don't know when I should get insurance. I don't know when I should get an LLC. And I tell them, use that time to educate yourself to build your confidence up. Whether it's hiring an attorney, whether it's talking to an accountant, all the things that make you scared, go out and talk to somebody before you spend money. And you just have a list of how much everything costs. Okay, insurance costs this, rent costs this. It's okay to ask how much a place rents for. You're not gonna offend anybody. So I try to encourage entrepreneurs who are moving into a business, even if they have background in it, go through the front door, go to all the free stuff you can, get as much free information, because once you pay that first dollar to form that LLC, well, actually you can form your LLC and EIN immediately. I think anybody who's ever thought about starting a business, form your LLC right now. Even if you just don't know what business is, just form it and have it, because the history of your LLC is based upon the date you filed that. So that's like your birth certificate. So you can change the business model, but the LLC should be formed as soon as possible. But when do you actually put money in and activate the LLC? That's where you take your education and you get smart about it. You say, okay, I understand now. So you might think you might need $10,000 to start a business. You go, okay, I'm going to save up with $10,000 to start my business. No, you need to talk to people in your industry, and they find, oh, you need shirts, you need this, you need, like, oh wow, I actually need $50,000. But that $40,000 difference, it's better to get the other 40,000 than to lose the 10, because the 10 would have been spent and you would have not gotten anywhere. So taking your time to understand the industry and how much you need increases your confidence. Education increases confidence. Once you have confidence, your risk is dissipated. Once you have your risk dissipated, you start to take chances. Once you take chances, you start to get rewarded. So